All right, this is lesson 8.3, and we're going to continue to talk about the unit circle. And I want to mention that the unit circle has a radius of 1 unit. So if that's the case, and this is the origin, and this is the radius, then that ordered pair would be 1, 0. So if all of these have a radius of 1, I could figure out what all the ordered pairs are. So this would be 0, 1. This would be negative 1, 0. And this would be 0, negative 1. Okay. Let's talk about cosine and sine now. So cosine is going to be the x-coordinate, and sine is going to be the y-coordinate. All right, down here we have another unit circle. So what we're going to do is I am going to not maybe do all of the entire unit circle, obviously. Okay, so if you recall back from lesson 8.1, whoops, it's not true. We said that was 0, that was 90, this was 180, this was 270, this was 360. And then we also have degrees that are in each quadrant as well. I'm trying to look at something really quick before I move on. Okay, anyway, so right in the middle would be 45 degrees, and then this would be 30 degrees, and this would be 60 degrees. This comes from our special right triangles that we talked about back in lesson 8.2. All right, anyway, also recall that we have 4 quadrants. This is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we also want to talk about the signs in each quadrant. In quadrant 1, both x and y are positive. So positive, positive. In the second quadrant, x is negative and y is positive. In the third quadrant, both x and y are negative. In the fourth quadrant, x is positive, y is negative. Okay, I think that might be it for that. I might have to refer back to that eventually, but for now that's good. All right, let's go on to the next page. All right, so I want to find the exact values of cosine and sine for every degree that's on the unit circle. So what we actually might need to do is maybe go to this page on our notes and maybe go ahead and fill in all the degrees. Let's do that first, actually. Okay, so this is going to be 0 degrees. This is the very last page in your notes packet. This is 90. This is 180. This is 270. And then back around to 360. And then I already mentioned the first quadrant. This is 45 because that's right in the middle of 0 and 90. And then referring back to our special right triangles from 8-2, we had a 30, 60, 90 triangle, and then a 45, 45, 90. Okay, now you'll need your calculator. There's patterns everywhere. In this lesson. Sorry about the bells. Okay, so if you look first of all, this slice of the pie is bigger than these two. So the bigger ones, we're going to think that we're going to add 30. So you're going to add 30, and then you're going to add 15, add 15, add 30, then you repeat. So I'm going to add 30, 15, 15, 30. So if I add 30, I get 120. Add 15, I get 135. Add 15 again, I get 150. Add 30, I get 180. Now I'm going to repeat. I'm going to add 30, it's 210. Add 15, I get 225. Add 15 again, I get 240. And then add 30, I get 270. Then I'm going to repeat. Add 30, add 15, and then add 15 again, and then add 30. All right, so those are all the degrees. So I'm going to have to refer back to this as we do today's lesson. Okay. Now, we're going to find exact values at all of these degrees. And to do that, in the end, I'm going to have all these ordered pairs filled in. Now, however, we already know these four right here because we filled them in at the top of our page here. So I know the 4 points that are on the unit circle. So I'm going to do that really quick. So this is 1, 0. This is 0, 1. -1, 0. And 0, -1. Okay, now we're going to find the rest. However, once I find these three, I can very easily get the rest. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do these three first, which again are the ones in the first quadrant. Once I get those, I can very easily get the others. So what I need to do is I have to refer back to my 30, 60, 90 triangle, or my 45, 45, 90 triangle. Okay, so for the 30, 60, 90, this was x, this was 2x, and this was x root 3. On the 45, 45, 90, these were x, and this was x root 2. Okay. Now what I'm going to do for these three, I'm not going to do for the others, because once I get these three, I can easily get the rest. Okay. So since I have 30 degrees, I'm going to use this triangle right here. So I'm going to write this down. I'm going to go ahead and draw the sides again. And I want to find the value of cosine and sine. Now remember, cosine is the x value and sine is the y value. Okay, now I'm looking at 30 degrees. So since that's the angle I'm looking at, this will be the opposite side. Right across from the right angle is the hypotenuse, and then whatever's left over is the adjacent. Now I also have to keep in mind SOHCAHTOA when I do this. Now this is a one-time thing. I'm just showing you how we get the answers. You just have to remember what the answer is. All right, so for cosine, I want the adjacent over the hypotenuse. So I'm going to have x root 3 over 2x. Well, the x's happen to cancel, so I am left with the square root of 3 over 2. That was the cosine of 30. Now I'm going to do the sine of 30. The sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So the opposite is x, The hypotenuse is 2x. The x's cancel, and I am left with 1/2. Okay, so this is my ordered pair for 30 degrees. So I'm going to go back to that unit circle. This is the x value, this is the y value. So right here, I'm going to put the square root of 3 over 2, and then comma 1/2. Okay. Now, once I'm there, I can figure out 3 other ones. The lines that are closest to the x-axis are going to have the same value. However, you might have a positive versus a negative. So I'm going to put the square root of 3 over 2 and then 1/2. However, since I'm in the second quadrant, x is negative and y is positive. We go back and look at this that we filled in on the first page. In the second quadrant, x is negative, y is positive. Now the third quadrant, they're both negative, and in the fourth quadrant, x is positive, y is negative. So down here, I'm going to put square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, and they're both negative. Over here, square root of 3 over 2, 1/2, only the y is negative. Okay, so I've got 4 more. Okay, let's go back. Let's do number 6 next, because I'm still using the same triangle, except this time I'm using the 60-degree one. Okay, I'm just going to copy down this triangle again. So this is x, 2x, x root 3. Okay, this time I'm looking at 60. Therefore, this would be the opposite side. This is still the hypotenuse, and that would be the adjacent. Okay, I got to do cosine first, because that's the x value. Cosine is a over h, so x over 2x. X's cancel, we're left with 1/2. Now we're going to do sine of 60. Sine is O over h, so that means I'm going to have x root 3 over 2x. X's cancel, and we get root 3 over 2. So this is my ordered pair at 60 degrees. This is the x, and this is the y. Let's go back to our unit circle. You may or may not notice at 60 degrees it's these values but switched. So this is 1/2, and this is root 3 over 2. So now, all the lines that are closest to the y-axis are going to have the same ordered pairs. But in the second quadrant, x is negative and y is positive. Down here, I'm using these same values, except they're both negative. On this one, again, I'm using the same values, except the y is negative this time. Okay, now we got one more to figure out. And once I figure this out, I can get the rest that are left over. Let's go back. There we go. Now we get 45 degrees to do. So we're going to use this one right here. Doesn't really matter which 45 degree you use. I'll use this one. This is the opposite. It's the hypotenuse, and that is the adjacent. Let's see, cosine of 45. That's going to be a over h. So here's a and here's h. X's cancel, but once they cancel, that is not allowed. You cannot have a radical in the denominator. So I have to rationalize it, which means whatever I can't have on the bottom, I have to multiply both top and bottom by that. If I multiply straight across, I get square root of 2 on the top. That's going to be the square root of 4, which is 2. That's the cosine of 45. Now let's do the sine of 45. The sine of 45, or the sine, is opposite over hypotenuse, so x over x root 2. Well, if you look, it's the same thing as we got for cosine. So cosine and sine are going to end up with the same values. They're both the square root of 2 over 2. Let's go back to our unit circle. So square root of 2 over 2. Those are going to be the ones in the middle. In the second quadrant, x is negative. Square root of 2 over 2. In the third quadrant, they're both negative. Square root of 2 over 2, y is negative. Okay, once we have this filled out, we can get our answers for the rest of our notes. I'm going to rip this off. If you want to rip the back of your page off too, you can, just don't lose it. Okay, number 7. So now I don't have to do any of this anymore because it's right on my paper. Here's 120. This is my answer. This is my ordered pair for 120. So negative 1/2 root 3 over 2. That's my answer. That's all you got to do. I don't have to do the special right triangles anymore because I only had to do that for the first quadrant. Once I got the first quadrant, I can very easily get the rest. Okay, 135. So 135 is right here. This is my answer to that one. Negative root 2 over 2, positive root 2 over 2. Okay, let's do 210. I'm going to skip these two since the answers are literally right on here. 210 is right here. This is my answer to 210. Negative root 3 over 2, and then negative 1/2. Okay. I'm going to skip 12 and 13. Let's just do these two. So 315 is right here. That's my answer to 315. And then 330 is right here. This is my answer to 330. And that's all you have to do. So all of your answers are literally right on here. And if you notice, there's an empty space that's left. We're going to talk about that. I think it's on 8-4. But anyway, that's 8-3.